Hi everyone, my name is Osai Egwamese, a senior client advisor at Philly Magna Limited. So today we're going to have another interactive session regarding visas, and I hope you are ready for today's going to be a very interesting and interactive one. Like I know you guys enjoyed the last one that we did, so we decided to do something more refreshing today, and we have a little surprise for you, but we'll reveal that later. So along here with me, I have my colleague.
Hi everyone, my name is Anu and I work at Philly Magna Visa and Immigration Consultancy. I'm also one of the senior clients advisor here. Thank you.
Okay, so today we're going to have like a very, very interesting topic where we're going to click some boxes for a lot of people that have a lot of discrepancies regarding their visa application. So with us here, we have a special guest that's going to bring a fresh view to the entire webinar, the entire application, and a little bit of spice into the entire thing as a whole. So she's a certified immigration consultant. Her name is Olamidotu Obada.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here. I'm really, really excited to be here with the team. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for hosting. And thank you, Anu, as well, for being here. I feel like I'm on the hot seats, but yeah, I'm happy to be here, everybody.
We're glad to have you here. So it's not going to be too much of a hassle. It's just going to be a relaxing session where we want everybody to be able to express themselves, ask questions, and then we're going to answer a lot of questions regarding applications. So today, our main topic today is the ideal checklist for a visa application. And how do I get it right? What have I been missing? So this is a very common mistake that happens in a lot of people's application. The checklist is one of the most important parts of your applications when you're putting into the system. So we want to ask our certified immigration consultant, Mrs. Olamidotu. So what can you give us an insight of what I know there's no ID checklist, but just give us an insight of what the proper checklist should look like, so we can have like a guide on what doing our visa application for people watching.
So I think you said the first thing, which is the fact that there's no permanent. You can't say this is the permanent checklist for all your visas. That's it. Do what you have to do. No. Every single person's case is different. So for instance, you might have two brothers or two sisters. They're flying to the same country and their situation is different. Based on your situation, your checklist is going to be different. But regardless of that, the one thing that you need to know, there are certain things that are fixed, that are cast in stone. And let me say this, I watched the last webinar. I was really, I learned a lot. Even with all my experience, I learned a lot. Some of the things that they were sharing there was talking about finances, which is one of the biggest requirements, and it should be top priority when you're applying for a visa, is your finances. You had already said it in the last session that ideally when you're traveling, you can't be putting in too much money. You need to make sure that you have built that record. So finance is the first thing on the list, of course. And the other things would be, of course, your passport, your track record. What do you do for a living? How do you do it? But the one thing I want to be able to help clients answer is, in terms of whether it's your finances. So some people would say, I need a lot of money, but the amount of money that you need or your checklist also depends on the kind of visa that you're applying for, right? I don't know if anyone wants to speak about that. So in terms of why is the kind of visa important and relevant to the checklist that you're going to have?
Okay, thank you for that. So, like you said already, you need to identify the kind of visa you're applying for and also the country you're applying to. So for each country and for each type of visa you're applying for, they have their own checklist. But then, like she said, we have a generic checklist whereby you put in your personal documents, your financial documents, and then your employment documents. So when you identify the type of visa you're applying for, that will give you a guideline for the documents you need to put in together. Like for me, I always categorize this checklist into these steps. So the first one are your personal documents, the next are your employment documents, then your finances. Those are like the major categories. And for depending on the situation or the kind of visa you're applying for, there may be additional documents you need to put in. But there are some generic documents, each, like she said, your passport, your travel history, your finances, your ties to your home country, and your employment. Those are like the major things that you need to put in together for whatever type of visa you're applying for.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I hope everybody's penning this down. So we have had identify your visa type, very important. Know the country that you're going for, the country you're going to. Understand what the visa entails. These are very, very powerful points that you should put down because they're very important in your application. So I'm just going to let them continue as well. So Mr. Lamdoti, you can continue.
Okay, so I would say when you identify the particular visa type, so say for instance, you're going for a student visa, and you say to yourself, okay, what's going to be my ideal checklist? Of course, you need to make sure that you've applied for the school. The school needs to meet the requirements of the country that you're applying to. So for instance, if you're going to Canada, is it a school that will give you post-study work permit so that afterwards, once you're done with school, you can stay back? Do you have enough money to show that you're going to go to school for 2 years or 1 year? Do you have enough money for your upkeep? And if, for instance, on a flip side, let's say you're the kind of person that you're a business person and you're going for a visitor's visa. Now, if you're a business person and if you're an employee, your requirements will be different because as an employee, you need to show your employment letter. You need to show that you're going to come back. So, for instance, evidence that you still have that job and it's not like you were fired before applying for that visa. Evidence that you're being paid a salary constantly. Now, if you're a business owner, you need to have evidence that shows that that business is registered, that business earns money, and you have access to the money. Now, the truth is, when you hear all of these things, you start to ask yourself, this is a bit confusing, right? What exactly do I need? How am I going to be able to how am I going to be able to select what I need based on my situation? And that's why we always say, talk to the professionals. That's why you're talking to Philly Magna, because the essence of this conversation is to really, really paint a checklist for you based on what you need for a visa application. But if you feel like your situation is complicated, then you have to sit down and ask yourself, should I be talking to a professional? Who am I talking to about this particular application as well? Now, I'm going to let Anu comment slightly, and I'm going to ask her, and this is a bit of a test question because I know that, based on their knowledge and their experience, they might have more to add to it. If you had somebody that, Anu, you had somebody that was, let's say a homemaker, she wanted to go on holiday to the UK, for instance, with her children, what ideally should be in her ideal checklist?
Okay, thank you for that question. So let me, the best way to answer this question is you have to have a consultation with this applicant, and you also need to identify who the sponsor will be, because she's a homemaker, so definitely employment status, she wouldn't be able to prove that in the application. So after the consultation, once we identify who the sponsor will be, so that means in this application, 2 people will be mentioned in this application. That's the applicant, the homemaker, and also the sponsor. So it's so how this application would be is after providing the personal documents of the homemaker, that's the woman, let's say her personal her passport letter page, her travel history, and also like a letter still explaining herself. Then the sponsor would also need to provide the personal passport, that's their international passport, and also their bank statement. So when we say the sponsor, that means the person sponsoring the application. So for that person, the person needs to bring in their finances. So it's a two-way thing. The applicant will be there and also the sponsor will be there, and we'll be requiring them documents from both parties. So that's why we said after the consultation, that's speaking to the applicant and also speaking to the sponsor, you have to get them documents from both parties. That's for the applicant, which is the homemaker. Her personal document needs to be there. If she has children, yes, passport is to be for all the children, birth certificate, also to show that okay, I'm a family person and these are my family information. And then for the sponsor, your sponsor also needs to prove their finances. And also, before I forget it, you need to mention the connection, the tie between the sponsor and the applicant. That needs to be established in the application.
Jen, do you have a particular question for us?
Okay, so I just wanted to buttress more on the points that were made. So what they're trying to explain here is even when you state that, oh, I'm a homemaker, I'm a housewife, how do I travel? It is not a barrier. There's a possibility and it can always happen, right? So we're going to be taking a few questions. So I'm just going to take a few questions from here. So the first question we have, I'm going to direct this to Mrs. Olamidotu, is I've been refused multiple times for the UK. What can I do?
Wow. I mean, I would say if you've been refused multiple times, I'm sorry to say it's a very tricky one, but you need to be careful if you're going to put that application together again, because at the end of the day, everybody wants to be successful in their application. So my first advice to you is, if you've tried to do it by yourself several times and you've been refused, you want to make sure that you speak first to a professional to review that refusal note. One thing about a professional, I mean, like Philly Magna, is we're trained to be able to read in between the lines. So when they give you a refusal note, sometimes they've told you you've been refused based on finances, but there are other things in between the line. They might write other things in between the line, and they also quote things according to their laws and what they expect. So the first thing you want to do is review your assessment, your refusal note, get a professional to do it for you. Not only will you also do that, begin to ask yourself, what documents did I put in and has my circumstance changed? So if your circumstance has not changed, don't redo that application. For you to be able to get a successful application after a refusal, you need to be able to prove that your circumstance has changed. That is the biggest thing. The moment you're able to prove that, for instance, maybe you earn more money, for instance, maybe you are being sponsored by somebody, and now the person's financial statement is in a much better place, your circumstance has changed. So putting in, I mean, some people will just automatically say, oh, I was refused, let me do it again. Maybe they didn't see the document. No, they did. The only way you can put an application in again is if your circumstance has changed. So the first question is, how do you review that refusal note, and has your circumstance changed? And I hope that I've answered that question.
Yes, thank you so much. You can send us a DM so if you need more clarity on that question that was asked and that was answered. So I have another question here that says, to just say, if we don't get to answer your question, you can send us a DM on the questions that we missed out. So I'm going to apologize ahead of time if I did not pick up your questions or the questions that I'm picking up. Okay, so what do I do if I am a business owner and I want to apply for a visa?
Should I let Anu answer that question? Because Anu has a lot of expertise and experience in that area.
Okay, thank you for that question, Osai. So what's the question again? What do you do?
Yes. So what so the person says, what do I do if I am a business owner and I want to apply for a visa?
Okay, the first thing, but before we even go into other details, that business is registered. But that's the first question we would ask you. This business you're talking about, is it registered? Because you need to prove how viable that business is. You need to show that the business is existing and the running cost of the business. So that's the first thing. Is that business registered? Because if the business is not registered, there's no need going into that. So that's the first point. Is that business registered? Okay, so let's say yes, the business is registered then, okay? The documents you will need is your personal document. That's your own personal document. Document regarding the company in terms of company registration documents, company bank statement, tax certificates, and any other thing, just to prove that this business is viable, it's a running business, it's not forged, it's real, it's existing, and it's operating. So any documents you can provide to prove this towards your business will be needed for the application. I hope.
Yes, thank you so much, Anu. So the next question is quite intertwined with this. So I'm just gonna state it, but we've basically answered it. The next question is, my business is not registered. What do I do to apply for a visa application? I can answer that already because she has said the first thing you need to do is to register your business. So if your business is not registered, your next line of action is to register your business as soon as possible, and then you can send us a DM. We can pick it up from there. So the next question is, my parents are old. How do I bring them over to the UK? Sorry, do you mean bring them over as visiting somebody? I'm just going to take this as visiting visa for your parents. I'm just going to drop that for them to answer.
I think if you're trying to invite your parents over, there are several ways and there things that you need to consider. So if, for instance, your parents are financially stable, right, then what you're giving them is an invitation letter, and then they can put in their documents to say they are able to pay for their own trip. But if your parents are not financially stable, so that means you're the one going to pay for the trip, then that means your finances needs to be intact and be strong enough to carry them. But now, even though you are the one carrying them, they still need to show that they have money and they're comfortable where they are from. The money they're going to show may not necessarily mean they can pay for their ticket, but it needs to show that they are financially stable, whether they're pensioners or whether they earn rents from maybe properties that they have. So even though you're the child, you're sponsoring them, they also need to show that if they go to the UK, they have and they apply for a visiting visa, they have something that will bring them back. So that's one of the things you can do to bring them, invite them, but make sure that you need to bear in mind what is the financial situation and who is paying for the trip. I have one question here, Jen. I think you've missed it. I wanted to ask you, somebody here is saying that I'm 20. I'm not sure if you read it. The question says, I'm a 24-year-old. I just finished school, university, and I want to go on holiday, but my uncle will be paying for the trip. How can I put this application in? Jen, I feel like you should answer this question.
Okay, so you're 24-year-old. So the first few things you need to understand is, number one, you're not a minor. So you need to establish what your current employment status is. Like my colleague said earlier, when you're applying for visa application, the first few things you need to be able to identify is your employment status, your financial status, and your economical ties to Nigeria or wherever country you're applying from. So as a 24-year-old, what do you do? Do you have a source of income? Can you state that source of income? Is it credible? And your uncle that's sponsoring you, even if your uncle is sponsoring you on this trip, you need to be able to establish ties with your uncle. You need to also have a financial backing of your own regardless, because one of the reasons why most people get refusal is because they feel the person coming from their country to their country is not financially stable enough in their country, their present country of residence. So you need to establish that you are financially stable enough. And if you're going for just a holiday, your uncle is sponsoring you need to establish a lot of ties. But I would really like you to send us a DM, because this will require a very lengthy consultation as well. And we're waiting for you at Magna. Okay, so any other questions that we've missed? I am so sorry. We are honestly out of time. So any questions that I'm missing or I did not take, please forgive me. Just send us a DM and we'll attend to all inquiries as soon as possible. So I'm just going to pass it on to my colleague to... Okay, so Ms. Olamido, do you have any closing remark that you would like to share?
I think for me, I'm just going to speak about the fact that at Philly Magna, our work is very diverse. So we work across different countries' visas. And not only do we have that expertise in countries outside Nigeria, we also have a very strong expertise also in Nigeria. So I know that the exchange rate is very high at the moment, actually in West Africa. But when people are thinking of, so I always say to clients, when you're thinking of visas, don't just think of visas to leave, regardless of the country, whether it's Nigerian immigration, you're thinking of starting your business, you're an international company outside of Nigeria, you're thinking of starting your business in Nigeria, or maybe you are sitting in Dubai, you want to travel, or Lebanon, you want to travel to the UK. Regardless of where you are, you can call us, you can speak to us. That's what we're trained to do. A lot of clients that we work with, we don't see them physically, but the joy for us is that we're able to have a successful application for all of our clients. In 2025, we're introducing a new service, especially for clients that are looking to expand their businesses into West Africa, Nigeria to be specific. So if you're thinking of doing maybe work permit for your employees in Nigeria, it's some of the things that we're going to be doing in 2025. And we hope that, send us a message. I've put on this, you have on the screen some of the contact details. We'll be so excited to work with you. Over to you, Jen.
Okay, thank you so much. I think you guys should actually take up on that. That's an exciting and very impactful introduction into the company as well. So I'm just going to let my colleague close up. Anu?
Thank you for that, Osai. So with regards to what we've discussed today, like you said, there is no particular checklist for everyone. We have some generic things, we have some generic documents you have to bring, but for each applicant and for each situation, checklist needs to be tailored. So the first thing you need to do is to speak to the professional. That's why we're here at Fully Magnum. And then now is the time, we're fast approaching 2025. Now is the time to start making your travel plans. Should it be school? Should it be visiting? Just speak to us. Then we can always just speak to you, advise you on the best thing to do. And like I said, based on your situation, based on the category of visa you're applying for, and based on the country you're going to, we will give you a checklist tailored to you. Like we said, checklist for Mr. A might not be the same checklist for Mr. B. So just come to us, speak to us, so we can give you the best guide on how to come up with a checklist and how to put in your documents. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
Great having you.
Thank you. It was nice having you, Mr. Lamido, too. Thank you for honoring us our invitation. Thank you, Anu, as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this interactive session, and we hope to see you guys again very soon. To have a lovely day.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.